The next step in the story to impact process stands for the letter M, is to map your story into a framework, especially the one that you can sell. Now, if you just came across this video and you're wondering, what is this? My name is Lolita Godin. I'm a stress management expert, but also I'm 7 times Amazon #1 bestselling author. Okay, how did I do that? That's what they teach here. So if you haven't seen the previous videos, go check it out. All right, so you have a story. There is something happened in your life that now you know that actually means something, not only to you, but you notice that every time when you're telling someone, they're saying, oh my gosh, oh my goodness, you actually did that, wow! And now you need to monetize it. But then you're wondering, is it really important? You know, I hear all the time a lot of people telling me, I just love telling my story. I'm like, okay, well, that's good, but you really still need to have something there that people not just listen to your story, but actually learn something and they can apply in their own life. So there are a few things that I'm going to tell you about how to put that in some sort of framework. Number one, you need to have from a story to system. How to extract principles and lessons from the things that you learn in life. And you're thinking, well, I don't think that my story about how I used to hang out with my grandmother and I love cooking and now I miss my grandmother so much that now I cook food because I want to remember her really means anything to other people because that was my grandmother. You can monetize this in so many ways. If someone listening to your story and they can relate to you because they also have a grandmother that they miss, bingo, they will be interested in your story. You also can even have a grandmother's cooking recipe and you can even have your own cooking show. You even can talk about relationships between generations. You even can talk about how to deal with grief. So you can do a lot of things. But imagine you have this story and maybe some people can relate, but also they see you going through that story and surviving it and learning something new. Maybe joy for life. Maybe you know now how to grieve and you can teach others how to do that. You don't have to be the guru. You just have to be one step in front of someone who needs your help. Let's imagine you teaching this to you 10 years ago. You probably know some things now before that story happened to you, right? So this is what you need to remember, that you're just teaching someone who is behind you. One step, because you see, you need to relate to the people. Every time when I watch some gurus and let's say, I'm not gonna call names, but let's say someone who says, hey, make millions of dollars, be so successful. I personally would just look at them and think like, you know what, you're so far ahead of me. I don't think I'm going to reach the place where you are. So that's immediately I'm losing the interest and hope and actually faith in myself and I want to make it. That's why it's very important that you will be relatable, believable, vulnerable enough that people will know that this is possible for them. And you're so close to them, only like 1 or 2 steps ahead of them, that you can reach out and grab their hand and say, I'll show you how to get there. You have to be believable, right? So if you're selling a system, if you're selling a story, you're selling something, you have to be believable. That's the problem with a lot of people, that they look at some things that are so out there that they lose interest if they do not get something and results immediately. But if you just far enough that people can see that you are ahead of them, but you're still reachable, you inspire more results and people will follow you and learn something from you. And that's how you will make a difference in the world, because they will be following you because you're believable. So if you think, well, I don't know, my grandmother's recipes were not that, like, why would I have something? Plenty of people have grandmothers who cook, but it has personal impact. It has something one step ahead of someone that doesn't know what to do with the situation that they're in. They have a problem, maybe they just lost a grandmother, or they don't know how to cook. You see what I'm saying? So if you think that your story is not good enough or not monetizable enough, You are unique. Remember, we already talked about this in the previous video. Go check it out if you haven't watched it yet. So you have to just use the story. The next thing that you need to do is to create a system that's easy to remember. Like, for example, my calm process. You see, my calm stands for one step. That means something, right? C is a control, A is acceptance, L is a limit, M multiply. So when you see all of your story, what you actually teach, you need to come up with something that you teach that will be easy to remember for people. More than that, imagine that you are now well known, or even not well known, but you have something that you can now not only teach yourself, but even have other people teach your system. So this means we can take you away from what you teach, and it still can bring results. That's like the best, because then you can have certificates, you can have different programs, you can teach other people to teach other people. So it's easier when you, let's say, have a book and it's like 5 or 6 or 7 steps. Probably 4 is a good medium, 5. Even my impact is 6 steps. Well, because I teach about a lot of things, how to work with your story and how you monetize that and impact the world, right? That's why there's more steps to that. You know, there's some books that I've seen in programs that have even 7 steps. But you see where I'm going? Come up with a word. Come up with something that it means something, and then can people remember it? You know exactly what I'm talking about. So you need to come up with that. And every step in your story teaches something and is memorable. Then, the next step, you need to outline your story for whatever you want to do. Will that be a book that you will be published, or maybe a speech that you will be going step by step, or some exercise or process, or something like that, that you will know exactly what it is. Now, when I was writing my book, Stress Management for Adult Children of Alcoholics, that's right there, I did not have a system. I didn't have an outline. I just knew that there were some things that I wanted to talk about in my book and give examples and give exercises for somebody to work with that. And when I started my book, I had no idea how I'm going to finish. Okay, I was just going as I was inspired to write about something to tackle, and I was just writing those chapters. So if you feel like you have a story, but you really don't, like, you have the teaching, but you really don't know what your outline is, that's okay too. You can write a book without that. Or if you feel like you really want to have something in concrete, you can have, I love Excel spreadsheets. You can put whatever you want. You can use Trello, you can use all kinds of management systems, different apps, where you just really, you write it down, what is that you teach, and then next to it your story, and they really need to align, because if you're just going to tell a story, then it kind of is like a novel, right? So if you want to monetize it, you need to teach something, but also next to that, you need to come up with other examples from your life. Like, for example, in the calm process book, I teach my calm process, but I also give plenty of examples from my own life and from other people's lives as an example, you know, how that can relate to you. That is through that, I'm showing I'm vulnerable, I'm believable, and I'm showing I'm right one step in front of you, meaning you probably can relate. This means you believe that this is possible for you too. Then, usually, like in Excel spreadsheet, I have another column where I write what examples will I give, and also what teachings will I give. That's also, it's very good when you have this outline, because you see what you're covering a lot, what you're covering not enough, because you don't want to have, let's say, if it's a book, you don't want to have one chapter have 10 examples and another chapter have 2. You want to have this kind of balance. Also, it's very good to keep up when you see that you already gave this example before, so you don't want to repeat. You know what? And I remember in the previous book, the Stress Management for Adult Children of Alcoholics, there was an example that actually caught myself later on that I repeated again. But I don't think anybody will be mad about that, right? Because I don't think you can read the whole book in one sitting. So even if you do that, that's a great example, right? Because I can use it for many things. So what about the outlines? Don't get too frigid from the beginning. Give yourself flexibility, but if you can come up with something very concrete and already the outline, especially for those, and I had clients who they love having no outline and they love knowing exactly where they're going so they can manage their time. They know how to write the book and whatever the program that they're creating and building, and it gives them clarity. But if you're that kind of person that you just like to go with the flow, then you just go with the flow. And again, remember, I'm a stress management coach. I'm telling you, do not stress about something. The less stress, the better. Now, important thing also for you to have to be relatable is you need to build your hero journey. You cannot, okay, why we watch movies? Because there is always a conflict at the beginning of the movie or a novel or something like that, any story, right? There's always something happens with the hero and then they learn a lesson and then they come out as a victor at the end of the story. I'm sure if it's a Greek tragedy, it probably is not going to end well, but and you can write that one, it's on you. But if you want to have people inspired and they want to follow you, then probably with the happy ending will be better. And also, if you're already talking about the story that you want to teach other people, obviously it ended well, right? Because you will not be writing it about something or teaching other people about something that did not work. I'm just assuming this. So it's a good idea for you to have your journey through the whole book or through the whole program or through the whole story, if you give a speech or teaching, that has, it's like a backbone of the whole story. But again, like I just mentioned, even if you don't have it, you can have different chapters that there's no story, it just goes through all through the whole book. I have a client that had an amazing story and it was all across the book. Every single chapter was just like a continuing on the story, but at the same time it was the teaching and exercises and some other examples from his life that actually were a great putting all that thing together. And again, if you don't have that whole story that you want to write, let's say through the whole book, that's okay. But your journey, your hero story can be told very long time, very prolonged through through many multiple chapters, or you can have a very short thing that addresses to that, but still have main points and the strong ones that identify how you went from there to there. You know, so many times I've seen stories, and you probably can relate. You hear someone has great story as of saying, hey, and now I'm doing this, and now I have, and I'm healed, and I'm famous, and I have this, and I have that. But it's very difficult to know how they actually got there. So that's why it's very important for you to have at the beginning, that's not really in the middle of something, but where you think someone is having a problem now that they can relate with you. So that's why it's important for you to start at the beginning, not at the false start when you already know exactly what you're doing, right? So basically your story with your grandmother should start when you were very little and you had no idea how to peel the potatoes, probably, because somebody then can relate to that instead of saying, and here I was cooking 3 meals a day, then they're like, okay, well, if I'm not cooking 3 meals a day, I probably cannot relate to that. Basically, you should work on your journey, on your hero journey that actually went from there to here, and be strategic about that. And there is one more thing that you really need to include in any story that you tell, and it is writing, speaking with emotional impact. I've seen a lot of people telling stories, and it's like an outline. And as you know, not everyone can be a good storyteller. Not everybody can know how to bring the story to life. Even when I'm when you're just talking on stage, when they're coaching, when they're making a video, or when they're writing a book. So that's where you need to learn how to write, how to express yourself. I know I'm here to help you, by the way. You're welcome to sign up for my Story to Impact mentorship. Or if you want to pick my brain, I'm welcome for one-on-one coaching session. That can be an hour or 2, whatever that you like. So I covered those things that you really need to know about your story and how to put in the framework. And the next video that I'm going to be talking, that will be covering the letter P and the impact. It's about publishing your story. I hope to see you there.